This is without a doubt the best looking Game Boy screen I have ever seen. This is a Game Boy Color with an OLED, no, AMOLED display. What more do you want? Seriously, the colors alone are enough for me and 4 out of 5 dentists to recommend. Look how beautiful Metroid looks with those perfect inky blacks. I genuinely can't stop looking at all the games with black backgrounds. Color-wise, this demolishes every other mod kit, including the almighty Q5. Or should I say, formerly almighty. Speaking of which, the AMOLED screen fits perfectly in the laminated Q5 shells, so you can use any of the ones from Funny Playing or others that have cool designs on them. These shells look so similar, I'm pretty sure they come from the same mold. The shell that they offer on the AliExpress listing is solid, but I wouldn't recommend using the included buttons and membranes. Instead, I'd use the originals from your donor GBC, or buy some other buttons from Funny Playing or Cloud Game Store. I'll have those linked down below as well as the AMOLED kit, which as of recording, these are not up for sale yet at Retro Game Repair Shop, but when they are, you can use code JAKE to save 10%. I'll also leave the AliExpress link since it's currently available there, and also cheaper. But enough business talk. Is this really better than the Q5? Like I said, the colors are unmatched. The Q5 display already had better colors than every other mod kit by a lot, but you just can't beat an OLED display. The contrast is unreal. The saturation is on point. I just can't express how good this looks. And since this is an OLED display, it doesn't use a backlight like LCDs do. Each pixel lights up individually. So when a pixel needs to be black, it just turns off completely. So when you turn it off while it's displaying pure black, the screen does not change. So in theory, this will greatly improve battery life. I don't want to go too deep into it because I want to save that for my big IPS comparison video. I guess it's not an IPS comparison video anymore if there's an OLED in it. But I'm going to save all the in-depth comparison for that video. So get subscribed so you can see that when it comes out. Comparing it to the Q5, the OLED draws about 10 to 20 milliamps less at an equal brightness on games with black backgrounds. And they drew about the same amount of power on the Pokemon Gold start screen. So to get a better idea of the battery life, I ran the Japanese Pokemon TCG carts at an equal brightness level on fresh alkaline batteries. The OLED is at its highest brightness level and the Q5 is at its second highest. The Q5 is slightly brighter at its max, so I brought it down to keep it fair. Obviously your mileage may vary, but I got about an hour more out of the OLED kit, which is very impressive. The only downsides are that the Q5 display gets a touch brighter and is a decent bit dimmer when you compare the minimum and maximum brightness levels. And also the fact that you unfortunately have to solder for this one. I tried it without soldering and it just won't work. But it's only one wire and it's super easy. I promise you can do it. I'll even walk you through it. Oh, and that reminds me of one of my favorite parts. There are no stupid touchpads. This is actually a touchscreen. It's not going to actually control the games, but you can press and hold down here to open up the display's menu, touch the arrows to adjust the different settings, and swipe up and down to scroll through all the settings, including frame blending and all those awesome logo colors. Since it's done this way, that means there'll be no accidental touch sensor adjustments. Drives me crazy when that happens, but you will inevitably end up with fingerprints on your screen. Better now. The one question I can't answer yet is about burn-in. OLED panels are susceptible to having pixels burn into the display. Nowadays, you have to actively try to get them to burn in like Bob from Wolf Den, but I don't think it's anything you'd have to worry about unless you religiously play the same game 8 hours a day on max brightness and it has stagnant UI elements that are always on screen. And even then, it would probably take a very long time before it's even noticeable. I'm tempted to pull a Bob and see how long it takes to see any burn-in, but at the same time, I actually want to play games on here. I'll do it if there's enough interest, but you'll really have to let me know in those comments down below. Also, just let me know what you think about this kit in general. Unless my big old comparison video leaves me thinking something else, this AMOLED display will be my new go-to kit. It just looks too dang good. However, I don't think it's worth getting rid of your Q5 modded Game Boy Color. Just buy an OLED for the next mod you do, since we're all addicted to modding these things. Obviously, I would love to see an AMOLED mod for the GBAs, but unfortunately, this screen just isn't the right size for that. However, I can't wait for this to come to the DMG and Game Boy Pocket. I would love to see what kind of battery life we would get on a console that only does black and white. That's really all I have to say for the review. Let's just get to the tutorial. This will be a quicker tutorial, but if you want a more in-depth guide, I have a detailed extended cut of the tutorial up on the second channel. I'll have that link down below with everything else you'll need. Also, here's a jump scare warning for the board I used. The contacts were just too beat up for me to sell on my website, retroremastered.com. So I'm using this here since I'm keeping it for myself. Now that we've prepped our board as much as we need to, as much as we can for now, we are going to prep the screen. Now, this looks a little funky, but what you're going to do is you're going to just place this down right over this connector here, which is right here. And it kind of just did what we need it to do. We need to somehow manage to slide it in that hole in the PCB, and then we can fold it over, and then we can hopefully connect this somehow. It's a little hard to get a good angle for it, I apologize, but it should just go in, and it should click. If it's not going in, don't force it. You will bend those pins, and that's not good. So from here, we can peel all of this peel, and we can stick it in like this. We're going to put the ribbon cable through here, and then we're going to put the screen down like this, slide it in at the bottom, and push it down. It's going to fit like a glove. Now, all of this looks pretty dang good. Future Jake here. Unfortunately, this does require soldering. And since I've done like hundreds of Q5 mods, I'm used to soldering the power wire up here. It's down low. A little bit annoying, but shouldn't really matter overall. If you're new to soldering, you might want to take the board off again and solder just on the mat, not on top of the screen. But this is thankfully pre-tinned. I don't know if it's going to be that way forever, because that's usually not the case. But since it's pre-tinned, we're not going to spend much time with the iron to it. It's far enough away from the screen. It's kind of levitating. We shouldn't have to worry about the heat getting to the screen and ruining it. So we do need to solder one of the wires, and that's why these wires are so long. I don't know why they included two. We're going to solder to this spot that says BAT right next to the B. We're going to hover our wire over that spot. We're going to press our tip down into the solder, and our wire should get into that solder bubble and solder down pretty nicely. And from here on out, pretend that that wire is there until it is back there. I'm going to peel this off. We're going to stick this down right there like that. It's not going to stick very well. This is very loose. The goal is just to protect any of these components from shorting to any of these million vias over here on this side of the board. Now we can put all of our buttons and stuff in. Then I wait to put the power switch in until after I put the board down. And since this has touchscreen controls, hallelujah, we don't have to do any soldering to vias, test pads. It's all on the back. Now that everything is in and we have our wire in that we had there the whole time, we can take our board and put it in the shell, and then the board should kind of click into place. Then we can take our ribbon cable. It should be pin side up, and it's a little bit harder to get in here because we don't have as much room to play with, but we can eventually maybe get the ribbon cable in there, and it should look something like this. If it's not going in, make sure your tabs are up, and then we can lock those two tabs down on the sides. From here, I'm actually going to put our 3 screws back in. Now from here, we can finish up our soldering. I'm going to use some flux here. We can put some flux down on the C pin of the power switch. That is right here. And they do give us plenty of slack, which is nice, and it's not too long. But once our soldering iron is back up to temperature, I have it at 300 degrees Celsius, we can just solder it to that C pad there. You might need a little extra solder. It's a little exposed there, but it's locked in, giving it the little pull test again, and it's not going anywhere. We're good, we're done with soldering. Then we can take our power switch and put it down over here. And then we can take our back half, slap it down, only goes in one way as well. And then we have our 6 tri-wing screwdrivers. There should only be 6 tri-wings left. Maybe we should have tested this beforehand. I'm too cool to test my Game Boys before they're fully put together. Plus, we can't test it without soldering first. So what's the difference? Not using the double-sided tape? I don't know. But this matte black Game Boy Color looks good. And it's going to look even better with our OLED display that I have the volume down on. Or the speaker's not working, even better. Dang, those colors look nice. I got to peel this. Okay, there is no pull tab for the peel. A pull tab would be awesome. There we go. Man, that looks pretty. And it's not even on. Whoo! Those colors look awesome. I don't know how it looks for the camera. Oh my gosh. I knew OLED was good, but man, dude, this just looked... I've never been so excited and satisfied with the end result of a Game Boy mod screen. This is the best kit. Go buy it. Woo! I'm pumped. Again, if you need extra help, check out the second channel for the extended cut. It'll be linked down in the description along with the link to buy this kit. Use code Jake to save 10% at RGRS. But that's really it. So like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later, guys. Okay, I'm done. I gotta go to bed. It's 3:30 in the morning.